Well, let's turn to the return to scale discussion. As I told you, the Marxian analysis basically states in the long run you have completely increasing returns to scale and a negatively sloped long run average cost curve. However, long run average cost curve in the mainstream analysis at the introductory level courses especially is like this, which is pretty much Marshallian analysis. Also, is like this. If you look to the book of Marshall, it is like this. Uh, well, it has this perfect shape we had wanted to have, which is actually first decreasing as a negative slope and then positive slope, which means at first long run average total cost curves are might have a negative slope for the reasons you might guess. Actually, I mean, when people work together, they might find better ways to cooperate with each other. They can use, and when you have more machines and uh, more people, well, certain tasks might be done in machines that specifically designed for those purposes and people who are specialized by doing those tasks. So having more machines and more people kind of allows more specialization and increased productivity, which will basically create an increasing return scale and negative slope for the long run average cost curve. Difficult part to explain is the rising part, basically. The why is long run average cost curve is has a positive slope after a certain point. So why we have a decreasing return scale? Well, there are two explanations, although those two explanations are not necessarily agreed on by all economists. One is the organization of labor might become more difficult as you have more workers. This is one idea behind that, and the other one is getting additional inputs might be more costly when you have a larger company with which is producing more. Well, in advanced courses, actually, you have instead of this type of a curve, you have a constant return to scale curve, which is basically a line, not a U-shaped curve. But in this course, basically, this based on this reasoning, and basically in original book of Marshall, it was also stated like that. Later, in advanced courses, the cost curve has made, well, basically a horizontal line. But based on these reasons, in this course, the long run average cost curve is taken as a U-shaped curve, which kind of creates a similar type of results for the long run analysis like we had in the short run analysis. Just like in case of the short run, in the long run also there is a certain level of production where average costs are minimum. Expansion of this production level will become more difficult after producers pass this point. And if demand is much higher than the point where long run average cost is minimum, then the good will be not supplied by monopoly but many firms, because that monopoly will have high cost, small firms will have a small cost relatively. So basically this structure will prevent monopolization if we accept this structure, although as I said this structure is also this cost structure is also challenged. I have two questions actually, and I will ask them. I think you should be able to answer them by thinking. It will be much better if you think on them. It will make you better understand the basics of the structure we have discussed. One question is the advertisement and brand. In 20th century especially, there are many brands like Coca-Cola, basically, which spend a lot of money for advertisement. How do you think the advertisement and brand creation costs will affect the variable and cost and minimum long-run average cost curve? Will give more advantage to large companies or small companies? Similarly, what will be the effect of the internet? I mean, will internet decrease the average variable cost or average fixed cost, and how will it affect the minimum long-run average cost? Will it increase it, give advantage to large companies, or will it decrease it, give advantage to the small companies? So just think about these questions and let's continue. Now we can start looking to the practice questions. So first practice question is what happens to the average variable cost, average fixed cost, and marginal cost when scale of production increases in the long run? Well, average fixed cost will be always decreasing. Marginal cost and average variable cost will have a U-shaped, well, they will have a shape of U, let's say. And marginal cost, the average variable cost is minimum at the point where it intersects with the marginal cost curve. All of this you can just see when you look to this graph, basically. This is average variable cost, this is the marginal cost, and this is the average fixed cost. How long is the short run while calculating cost of the companies? Explain your answer. It is the time at which capital is fixed, because we are assuming the main assumption in the model is in the short run the companies are not able to vary their infrastructure and machinery, so those need to be fixed. The long run is taken as the period where the companies can buy or sell their machinery and infrastructure, basically, and adjust their infrastructure and machinery in well, capital, basically, according to the production level they have chosen, or the number of units they will produce of the good they are producing. Write a case which will increase the quantity at which the short run average total cost is minimum. Well, one case would be if you keep everything constant but push this short run average total cost curve up. In that case, of course, the intersection of this short run average total cost curve with marginal cost curve will be also at a higher point. How can you do that? You can do it by increasing the fixed cost, which will increase the average fixed cost for every production level. This is one way. You might think about what will happen if marginal cost will increase or decrease. How will it affect the quantity at which the cost is, the short run average total cost is minimum. But at least, I mean, the answer I have given is a perfect right answer. You might think about on the other possibility just for fun if you would like to. Assume that as a result of increase in wages or wage labor costs, I would say, average variable cost of KPAS has increased. How will this affect variable cost and fixed cost? Variable cost will increase since, well, actually we can ask, well, the answer might be interesting actually in this case. So anyway, draw average variable cost, average fixed cost, marginal cost, and average total cost before and after the increase in the wages. Well, you might assume that the KPAS will hire only more workers if there are more buses to drive. So the wages might be roughly related to the quantity of passengers that are basically that actually ride the bus. And alternatively, you might also assume actually, and you might write this, and this would be okay. The KPAS might be already paying a wage to the workers, independent of number of bus trips they do. In that case, actually, the wages might be very well the fixed cost, although I have already told you the average variable cost has increased. I mean, in that case, of course, this question is actually not that much meaningful in this case. But what will basically happen is the the average variable cost will shift up like this. The average variable cost, short-run average total cost, and marginal cost, all of them will shift up, but the average fixed cost will basically remain the same. So this is the answer of the question, basically. I can actually also draw you. Let me show you. It's a little bit, it can be a little bit strange, but you can see that the ones with the dots are the new ones. You can see that both marginal cost, average variable cost, and short-run average total cost curves move up. The vertical distance between the average variable cost and short-run average total cost remains the same. Just note also the marginal cost curve should still, the new marginal cost curve should intersect at the minimum point with the new short-run average total cost curve and the average variable cost curve. Let me get it closer. Okay. Now let's continue. Okay. Assume college education is a type of sector with decreasing returns scale. Assume currently in Matthew 3,000 students study and decreasing returns scales means cost increase when you increase the average cost increase when you increase the production scale. Currently there are 3,000 students and Matthew works at full capacity. If Matthew doubles all its inputs, what can be claimed as the maximum number of students that will study in Matthew? Since it is decreasing return scale, it will be less than 3,000, so it can be as high as 2,999. Basically, the increase that could be, the total number could be as high as 5,999 students, but not 6,000 or more than 6,000. So practice question. The table shows marginal cost of airplane for Thai per month. Assume monthly fixed cost of Thai is $200 million. Calculate average fixed cost, variable cost, and average total cost for short-run average total cost for different numbers of airplanes. Find number of production level that decreases the average cost to the lowest level. Assume fixed costs increase to $400 million. How will this change production level that minimizes the costs? And draw the curves basically. Okay, let's start to do that. Although probably I won't be able to finish it. So quantity, which is 1 to 10. And I think marginal cost is 180, 60. After that, I always add a 20. Okay. Well, from there, I can easily find, they don't ask this, but it will be beneficial for me. I can easily find the variable cost. Each case, I will add previous variable cost, the marginal cost of the new unit. And let's stop here and continue in the next part.